Hi Aries, welcome to your 2017 Astrological Overview. It's Raina. I've never done any of these kinds of forecasts before for the whole year. I made sure not to watch any other astrologers so that I wouldn't be influenced by them and so that I would give you my own take on things. And so I hope that if you watch other astrologers that you will get something from my your annual forecast that you won't get from someone else's. And I'm sure that we will focus on different things. But I prefer to look at the bigger picture when I do astrology. So rather than getting into the minutia of the day-to-day stuff, which really is not all that influential in a lot of ways, because some of the planets are very fast moving, so they go from one house to the other very quickly, and they don't necessarily make that much of an impact because they're in and out. But we have some very transformational outer planets, planets that, like Jupiter and Saturn have, yearly transits, or in the case of Saturn, 2.5-year transits through a sign. So that's pretty long term to have a planet be in one of your houses. So that can give you more of an impact in your life. And so I feel that that should be the concentration. So I want to start by talking about Pluto, because Pluto has taken up residence in your 10th house of career, Aries. And Pluto's in Capricorn. Capricorn is the natural ruler of the 10th house. So Pluto being in this house, Pluto is this transformative energy. And it can be very healing. It can be very life-changing. But it can also, I think it's fair to say, create quite a bit of turmoil because of this transformation that occurs. Because if you think about somebody, doing what do they call those things where they just tear the guts out of a house? Those gut level renovations, I can't think of the name of them, but they're tearing everything down to bring it back up. And so that's kind of like what Pluto can do. So when it talks about the 10th house, or it hits that 10th house, you can be very, very, let's see, how would I put it, topsy-turvy, because the 10th house forms a tense angle to your the cusp of your first house, or your first house of self, and that's where your Aries is. So because it forms a square. So a square is a very frustrating angle, and because this angle involves two cardinal signs, your sign of Aries is a cardinal sign, as is Capricorn. You can really feel it profoundly, because cardinal signs, and the other two cardinal signs, by the way, are Cancer and Libra, are the signs that are the go-getters, are the catalysts. They're the ones that take action. If you get an Aries person and a Pisces person sitting down and talking, the Aries person is going to actually, let's say they say, I'm going to start a business. The Aries person will start a business the next day. The Pisces person will talk about it for another month. And I'm being a little bit facetious, but you get my point. The cardinal signs tend to back up their words with action. They're all about taking action that can lead them to being very successful when it comes to their profession. But in personal life, in their personal lives, it can create a lot of, or at least some stress or conflict, because you can't move the pieces on the chessboard when it comes to other people. It's a lot easier to mold a career for yourself than it is to mold somebody else into what you want them to be. So, Aries people tend to kind of come up against that brick wall when they try to deal with, renovating their personal relationships. So they can come off sometimes, all the cardinal signs, as controlling because of that tendency to take charge. And so you may have been going through this quite a bit in your life since 2008, when Pluto went into Capricorn, when it comes to your professional life. And so that may have been distressing for some of you if you have felt thwarted, because I would say that square is really about thwarting people from feeling, in terms of their ambition, that they can fulfill what they are trying to do. So you may have felt like you have been constantly coming up against obstacles, or maybe not constantly, but on a regular basis when it comes to advancing in your career of choice. And this may have caused you to rethink things. And, of course, when Pluto has gone retrograde, it may kind of ease up and make you think twice about that. But, in general, I would say that it's a good thing because it forces you to really learn how to surrender. I think of the Hangman card in the Major Arcana of the Tarot, where it's like you can't always just exert your will on the universe. Sometimes you actually have to let go and sacrifice, let go and let God. And, until 2024 or 20, I've heard conflicting things. I think it's January of 2024. We're going to be faced with this particular transit. And as I said, it started in January of 2008. In America, and most of my viewers are from America, you will know that the beginning of 2008 was the beginning of a financial freefall. And of course, eventually, we hit bottom and we have begun to slowly rise up, but there has been a lot of instability. And even when we are rising back up, some people are skeptical over whether or not this is a true reform, or if this is just like a Band-Aid or a temporary blip. Now, given the fact that Pluto will be in Capricorn until, so we're looking at another 8 years or so. Yeah, a little bit over 7 years. This means that there is more to come when we talk about some of these transformational events that are taking place in the United States, that could really affect it. Now, I don't know about England, if England is a Capricorn country. I thought I read someplace that it was, and it does have a very pronounced class system, so that would tend to support, Capricorn is all about class consciousness. So I'm going to have to look that up. But, England could be the same way, where there's a lot of twists and turns. Any cardinal country could experience this in particular. I think, I don't know if India might be a Capricorn country, and they have a caste system. So I'll have to check that out. But, in general, I would say the world as a whole is experiencing this Pluto in Capricorn transit, in the sense that Capricorn deals with all of the systems, the structures of society. In the body, Capricorn is the skeletal system, which is like, you think about the skeletal system of this planet. It's all of the, like the financial institution, the educational institution, and all these things are really coming under, you could say, siege or fire or question, attack, because we're shifting, we're ascending, we're changing our consciousness. So it no longer fits that old paradigm. And so for you, Aries, you are undergoing radical shifts, because in addition to this Pluto, which is affecting particularly your career or your reputation in the world, you also have Uranus, this rebellious, erratic energy, in Aries, your sign. And so that's the first house of self. And this will be until 2019. So this is a few more years, at least 2 more years in the running, where you are radically changing your basic self, your image, maybe the things that you're all about are changing. So I really feel that Aries is undergoing major transformation, and to some of the same extent, I would say Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer. And if you have any of these in your moon or rising sign, you may notice some shifts along those lines as well, because those are the prominent, really, really prominent parts of the components of your personality. So that could definitely affect the way that you function. And so with Uranus in Aries, you may feel like you don't want to be how you used to be. I feel that and you may even really crave freedom more than normal and reject any kind of conformity, somebody else wanting you to be something that they want you to be. The interesting thing about this is that it's right up your alley, because Aries, being ruled by Mars, has similar types of reactions towards other people trying to tell them what to do and how to do it. So you're not really on board with that anyway. And this is going to make you that much more volatile in the sense, and unpredictable, because that's what Uranus brings to Aries. It's very combustible, but I think it's very exciting. You can really reinvent yourself, but you may radically change even physically. And this can bring you more energy. Now, we are at the tail end of this, because, as I say, it will be leaving that first house in 2018. I don't know what month. Or did I say, I'm sorry, I meant 2019, I think it is. Let me see. I thought it said, I don't know if I wrote that down. I think it's actually 2019. So it's going to be a couple of more years in that, that house of the self, and everything about your life in general may change. So again, I feel that this is a very freeing kind of an influence for you. So, it seems to me that even though you may feel frustrated at times professionally, that sense of frustration may lead you to seek even more personal freedom. So for some of you, you may decide that you don't want to work for somebody else. I often tell people who are, when I'm doing private readings for people who are Aries, that they probably would do better working for themselves, especially if I see that they have additional cardinal energy in some of their personal points. And you may find with the Pluto that you just simply don't feel like you can make headway And you may take the initiative to doing something on your own. So, if that's the case, that'd be very good for you. The sun will enter your sign on the 20th of March, and you will have your new moon on the 27th of March. Now, I should say, because this is a general forecast, I should just note that because the new moon is at 7 degrees of Aries on the 27th of March, if you're born after that degree, as you would know if you have ever pulled up your chart, you'd know what your rising sign is or your sun sign. But your new moon will actually be in the 12th house. So just guesstimating, I would say if you're born after around the 28th or so of March, your new moon is probably going to be more like the 26th of April at 6 degrees of Taurus, because the new moon would be in your 12th house in Aries, at the early degree of Aries. And so that's good for spiritual beginnings, new beginnings, but it's at the end of that cycle. So it's not really your solar return yet until the sun goes to your degree, okay? So it all depends on what your actual date or time of birth is to find that degree. So let me talk about Mars, because Mars is not going to be going through all 12 signs in 2017. Mars has a transit of, I would say, about, 6 weeks, I think. I don't know. Like, for instance, it's going into your sign on January 28th. Okay? And then it goes into Taurus on March 10th. So you can see it's about 5 weeks or 6 weeks or something. Now, what this means when Mars goes into your own sign? Well, first of all, you're ruled by Mars. So that's kind of like even more so. It's going into your own sign, your ruler. Because Mars is so energetic, it's all about energy. In Aries, it's like gasoline on fire. So it's going to really rev you up. You have to watch out for that time period until March 10th, that you're not too combative and pushy, demanding, okay? But it will give you more energy, because until the 28th of January, you're going to have Mars in the 12th house. And for an Aries person who's already very, very active, having Mars in the 12th house is like having your wrists bound behind your back, where you feel like you have a lot of energy, but you don't know what to do with it. So what I would say is that the more you can take advantage of any personal plants in the 12th house by meditating. Why did I say meditating? By meditating, and just by even physical form of meditation like hatha yoga is something that is quote-unquote spiritual, but is also physical, and that can be very helpful. Or, you may find that you just naturally will be more reclusive and thoughtful. The 12th house deals with the unconscious mind, so there can be a lot of rumination going on. When Mercury goes there, I don't have that date because I just wrote some of the Mercury retrogrades just to give a feel for what houses they're going to be in. But yeah, so Mars is going to be in your sign until March 10th, and that is going to really make you at the top of your game, as long as you are not too, over the top with it. Then it goes into Taurus on the 10th of March, and that's your second house of earned income. So that can make you very aggressively seeking money, and because you're being that aggressive about it, so you may, you'll have the stamina to do it, so you may really feel like ambitious about it, and that can tend to lead to you making more money. If you're exerting energy towards something, the chances of you actually succeeding are very great. Now, as I say, it's not going to go through every sign. It's going to go through the first 8 houses in 2017. It ends in Scorpio. It enters Scorpio on December 9th, 2017. So going into 2018, you have Mars in your 8th house, and that deals with other people's money. That could be inheritance issues, hopefully not fighting over them, but that could be. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of these houses are personal houses. So it's going through, the first 6 houses are your own personal houses that deal with you versus other people. So you have the first house of self, second house of earned income, third of communication, fourth, your home and family, fifth, your creative output, your children, your romance, sixth, your workplace and your health. Okay, those are all personal houses. We start to get into the top of the upper hemisphere is the what do you call it? The kind of public self. So you have the 7th house of the other and the 8th house of intimacy. The 9th house of the higher mind and publishing and foreign travel, but it's like you interacting with other people from other cultures. The 10th house of career, that's you interacting within a career. It's not just about the career itself, it's about you, and this is a public thing. The 11th house of groups, hopes and wishes, but groups, friendships. And the 12th house, now the 12th house you could say is not public, but it is, even though it's hidden. It's the collective unconscious. So it deals with other people on a very intangible level. So you're not going to be having some of those later houses be activated by Mars in 2017. So this says to me that you're going to be very much exploring a lot. For most of the year, you're going to be exploring and investing energy in your own personal life. And I think that some of that has to do with whatever happens with your career, because you may feel like a bit more thoughtful, a bit more philosophical, because, and this is a good time to mention this, you have a transit until the end of 2017 of Saturn in your 9th house. So Saturn has this influence of being very disciplined and even restrictive, but the restrictive nature is in order to discipline you. So it's not as a punishment, although some people see Saturn as a taskmaster. In other words, whipping people, keeping them in line in some way. And I see Saturn as a teacher. And so in the 9th house, you're talking about issues surrounding higher education and your philosophical framework, including any kind of religious beliefs you have, spiritual beliefs, the higher mind of education, university level education, publishing, which means spreading your ideas to the masses. It's also foreign travel. It means interacting with people from a different environment. So all of these things are figured in 2017, but there's a very serious, you're taking these things very seriously for some reason. Now, it could mean that if you have been wanting to travel, that you feel that there's some kind of invisible barrier that keeps you from doing it. If that's the case, I would say this would be more likely the case of somebody who travels maybe for your job. And but you know, that's actually a good point. It could be that you actually increase your travel if your travel is for something substantial or that's going to promote your career. Because Saturn rules the 10th house of career. So Saturn is interested in career advancement. And in the 9th house, it could say, okay, you can travel, but it has to be for something that's not just fun and games. It has to be for something that's going to set you on a path to set you up in life. So it might be a good time, it might be a lucky time to travel if you want to lay the foundation for something that is going to help you in terms of your career in some way. So for instance, if you're in academia, you may decide to become a traveling professor, and you may go to foreign countries to do that. I'm not talking about necessarily teaching English as a second language. I'm talking about in whatever your field is, that you're doing that in another country and you're learning about that culture. Saturn in the 9th house can also make you be a little bit more thoughtful about your life purpose, what you're here for. Aries, as I say, is very active. So you tend to be very, even physical, where you're just doing a lot of vigorous things, maybe a lot of exercise, a lot of exertion, physical exertion. This is more of a mental kind of an influence. And what is so nice is that it's in a fellow fire sign. So it's something that is, even though it's in Saturn, I think that it's really, a nice change of pace for all of the fire signs. And so, we don't have to fear Saturn. We can use Saturn to gain the most advancement and, gain the most traction. And definitely, to feel more like we're, becoming more grown up about whatever house that it's transiting through. And more solidified is what I mean to say. One of the other big influences of 2017 is this transit of Jupiter in your 7th house of partnership. So Jupiter has a very expansive energy, a lucky energy. In the 7th house of committed partnerships, it can really point to somebody who decides to, for instance, get married because, or the equivalent of getting married, because commitment is something that is an expansion of your relationship. So it could point to that, and it could be a very happy marriage. Maybe you're not getting married, but maybe you meet the person that becomes that marital partner at some point. So it's meeting that lucky long-term partner. The 7th house can also deal with, court matters. So perhaps you have a legal matter that is advantageous to you in some way, that benefits you in some way. It could also mean that some of you who decide to start your own business or who already have your own business, that you have more partners, or I should say clients could even be under this house, than you know what to do with. So it may really expand your amount of clientele base. So that can be very helpful for expanding your own business. And this will be in play until, let's see, it's going to be, I think it's October. I don't know if I wrote down the date. Yeah, it's going to go into your 8th house on the 11th of October, okay? Now, I said before, I think that this is a general astrological reading, and so mileage may vary in terms of the actual dates that I give for these transits. But still, you can get some kind of a basic flavor for what's happening. So then you have Jupiter going into your 8th house. And the 8th house is the house of sex, death, and other people's money. So how can you expand through death? Well, if you are interested in any kind of field that involves death, so, I mean, I'm not kidding either. I'm talking about the, mortuary sciences or what have you. I actually worked with somebody who, was studying to be a mortician, a woman. And I found it very fascinating, maybe because I have the sun in the 8th house. But, the people do find work in that field. And it could have something to do with any kind of, I would say even detective work, because the 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. And it's all about probing beneath the surface. So it could be psychological matters. It could be like psychology. It could be the occult, because that's another big one where it's, the word occult is like, ooh, people always react to that word, but it means hidden. That's the only that's all that it means, is something that is hidden. So anything about the mysteries of life, whether it is with the occult, it's, astrology, the tarot, these things, and any kind of secret societies, even so-called conspiracy theories would fall into this house. Because sometimes, conspiracy theories are dealing with mysterious deaths of, like famous people, for instance. Like, who shot, I was going to say who shot JR. I meant who shot JFK. Who assassinated John F. Kennedy, which, we just celebrated, I should say not celebrated, but we just had the anniversary on the 22nd of November, the 63rd anniversary, no, 53rd, I'm sorry, 1963 of the Kennedy assassination. And people are still arguing about it, even now. Okay, well, these are the kind of things that are 8th house matters. So you might decide to start a conspiracy website, and it takes off like gangbusters. But that is a transit that is continuing mostly, that's going to be in play mostly in 2018. But at the tail end of 2017, starting in October, it will be transiting that house. And I wanted to just say very briefly about that, is that if you are somebody who is finds yourself gravitating towards spirituality with having that Saturn in that 9th house, that could really make you very serious. Maybe even to the point of taking up coursework and becoming a yoga teacher or something along those lines. Maybe you go back to college and you say, I want to get a master's in divinity or something like that. And you just get like a real sense of, I don't know, like a whole new look at life from a very sober, serious point of view, because Saturn is in that 9th house and you're uncharacteristically philosophical, then that Jupiter in the 8th house is kind of like comes in as the cleanup crew and blesses you, expands you in the area of these kinds of metaphysical matters. So that's, I feel like you know, there's so much transformative energy for Aries in 2017 at a much deeper level. One thing I just wanted to say very briefly, and I'm trying to see how much time has gone by here. Okay, so far I've talked for 35 minutes, and I could talk for another 35. I'm not going to, but I just wanted to say about Pluto in the 10th house. Watch out for any, you know, tendency to get even more obsessive about your career, about making things happen, because I think that it might work against you if you do that. Because, like I say, you have that square, and it's in cardinal modality, so you want to make sure that you're not trying too hard and trying to impose your will on the universe. Actually, I feel like the transits occurring in the first place in order to get you to be more cooperative, to be more, to have more of a surrendering mentality when you know that you should. You know, Mars is your ruler, and Mars is the god of war. So, it, you know, sometimes you may feel like, hey, that, you know, that's the way I roll. I want to, you know, be this crusader. But you can't. You can't always do that. Sometimes you have to kind of take a more passive role. And in doing so, you make space for things to happen rather than trying to always just push, push, push. Was there anything else I wanted to say? Going through the Mercury retrogrades very quickly, you have Mercury starting the year in retrograde in your 9th house, which is that house. It will go direct on the 8th in the 9th house. It actually starts retrograding in December, on December 19th in your 10th house of career. So anybody who's looking for work around the December period, especially in that second period, you may be like, oh crap, I don't think I got the job, you know. Don't give up hope. You may hear back from them in January after the 8th. But the other thing about this, and maybe not even, maybe it'll be like later on in the month when it goes back into to your 10th house, because it will be dipping back into your 9th house, and that will make you think more of these topics that I'm talking about, because it'll be in that same house with Saturn. So you may start to get more philosophical. Okay, what's it all about, Alfie? What do I really want out of life? You know, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what I should do. And that's good. You know, asking questions is never a bad idea. And kind of like rethinking things, or replanning. You know, maybe you had some ideas, and maybe, you know, especially with career, when it goes back into your 9th house, you may say, you know what, I need a little bit more training. This is kind of like, you know, a little bit above my head, so I need more training. There's going to be another retrograde in April, on April 9th, at 4 degrees of Taurus. So this is going to be in your earned income sector. You may see a very brief, and I'm talking about 3.5 weeks, slowdown in your earned income. Don't panic. It's going to come back. And you may even have ideas during this time that will bring up your income to something even better. It's going to dip back into your 1st house, and it goes direct on May 3rd at 24 Aries. So you know, you may have some second thoughts about something, but it's going to go back into your house of self. So you may even, at least for some of you, may be saying, you know, what am I doing to make things happen, and what can I change about myself to better, you know, and it could be even in the way that you promote yourself, especially during this time of great change with Uranus in that house. But I feel like Uranus transiting through the 1st house is such a wild card energy that some people, it's like almost like overnight success, Because Uranus is one of the rulers, along with Saturn, of the sign Aquarius. It rules the 11th house. So this is the house of the masses, So I feel like for some Aries people, it could even be like, you get thrust into the limelight, so to speak, or I don't mean even in career, like 10th house stuff. It could even be just your personality for some reason. Somehow, whether it's YouTube or what have you, where you're just being brought to people's attention. And it could be very sudden, That's what's so cool about Uranus. And as I say, this is going to be in your sign for a couple more years. So there's always chance for this to happen. So the next retrograde happens in August on the 12th at 11 degrees of Virgo, which is a master number. That's what I wanted to say about the JFK assassination. It just so happened to be 11/22. And so if you believe in, things like, the elite or the Illuminati, and them using these, this symbolism or the magic of these numbers, that could be, proof that it was some sort of, specific, not just some random person doing it, but done by, people very specifically for specific reasons. But anyway, that retrograde in August, on August 12th, is happening in your 6th house of health. Now, the 6th house is one of the houses besides the 3rd house that Mercury rules, okay? Because Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. So in the 6th house, Mercury retrograding there, it's a work house. So it could be something to do with your workplace. Maybe there's some kind of a reordering of things that you end up going someplace temporarily somewhere else or something. It is going to dip back into your 5th house of love and children and home businesses. So it could have something to do with maybe you're rethinking. You're saying, you know what, I think I'm going to, I don't know if I want to do this day job. I think I might just try to do this other thing full time. Maybe you're doing something on the side, because I do think that some of you will be, if not this year, while this Pluto energy is happening, you may decide to be more doing things on your own, but you may start on the side with it. But it could have to do with even your daily routine or your health, because Mercury can deal with diet, and you may be thinking that in some way. And the last retrograde happens on December 3rd at 29, the critical degree of Sagittarius. So this is at that tail end, right before that 10th house, in your 9th house, and rethinking things. It stays in that 9th house, goes direct on the 22nd of December at 13 Sagittarius. So yes, you're going to be putting a lot of thought into what you're here for, what kind of things matter, your philosophy of life. And I do feel that the Uranian energy and the Plutonian energy are really impacting you on a deep level, Aries, and making you reconsider maybe some of the things that you just took for granted as being part of your life. I think that for those of you who are looking for love, with Jupiter in the 7th house, it can be very good for that. I think even meeting somebody, I feel like the 7th house in a way can be, soulmate energy, because it is a committed partner, and it's not just an affair, in other words, okay? So it's possible that you can meet somebody in 2017, and that could be the person that ends up being, you know, your lifelong mate. And it happened under this particular transit. So I really hope you enjoyed this, Aries. I went on for quite a while, but I wanted to try to fit these things in. I do offer natal chart interpretations, and they're an hour long. And you can, I'm going to provide a link below for that. I do have a website with my store on it. I'll just link the store, I guess. And what I do in those readings is I devote, you know, approximately half of it to just your natal chart itself and what I see, maybe what your hidden talents are, and just, you know, the main thing is to kind of like maybe validate some of the dreams that you've had that you may have kind of shoved to the side because you were discouraged from doing them. Maybe even from childhood. Maybe you always wanted to do something and people said, no, you have to, you know, do this other thing because this is more viable. And that to me is the greatest gift that the interpretation of a chart can bring, is a validation. It's not me telling you what to do, but just to kind of second the notion, you know. And then I also give you highlights for the coming 12 months, kind of like what I'm doing here, but, you know, more tailored to your natal chart, which is going to be more exact, because, you know, your natal chart is can be any sign. So if you're a sun in Aries and watching this, your rising sign is the backbone of the natal chart, and it could be any sign because it changes every 2 hours. So in the course of a 24-hour day, it goes through all of the signs. So that can totally change what these dates are that I'm giving you. This is more for only if you know that your rising sign is Aries, or if you're just looking for your solar chart, that's what this is all about too, if your sun is in Aries. But so yeah, that's what I have, and I have other types of readings too. But I do wish you a wonderful 2017, and take care of yourselves. Bye.